Welcome to Access Your Leadership, where we share inspiring career stories and talk about ways you can level up your own leadership potential. This is the last episode of 2023. I'm your host and coach, Hakim, and today's topic, being the Chief Everything Officer and what it means when running a business for over 2 decades. Joining me today is Kevin Tacher, also known as the Title King, the founder and chief executive officer of Independence Title, Inc., a Fort Lauderdale, Florida-based title insurance company. Kevin is also an Amazon.com best-selling author and national real estate speaker. All right, Kevin, so happy to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, and love wrapping up the year with some great stuff.
Absolutely. I could not think of a better way to end the year, buddy. Thank you for taking the time and thanks for being here. And as you know, we'll just dive into the question I love to ask all guests as they come on. What's one big leadership win that you've had recently, whether it's leading yourself or leading others?
Yeah, I mean, you know me in multiple different angles. So whether it's my business, whether it's one of my books, whether it's one of the networking groups that I'm leading, or our brotherhood organization that I've helped create, I think you've seen that as a leader, I'm pretty good with harnessing the power of relationships and bringing people together and making them truly understand that there's a value of doing things together as a team versus being on an island by yourself. And I think my 20 years of success, and more importantly, my 20 years through the failures that I've had over time, which I've wrote about in a couple of my books, I think that's been the common theme all along, is that harnessing of the relationships together to build a bigger mountain together, as opposed to trying to do it on your own.
Yeah, I love that. And I have been witness to that. I mean, I've had the good fortune of seeing you actually operate and be true to that word and not only leverage those relationships for yourself, but be really conscious about leveraging those relationships for other people around you too.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that, you see, my clients see me in the role of obviously owning a title company and how I run the operation with my employees. But where a lot of my friends like you and business associates see me is more in some of the networking groups that you see, like the BNI group that we were a part of. I ran it for 2 years and now I hop back in for a third year running it again. And the reason they choose me to do it is because I have a way to harness those people together and just build something bigger, build a bigger vision, build a bigger mission of why we do things, and we do them together. So, you see me in that aspect, where a lot of my clients see me in the business aspect of how I come together and build them up. And the result of building them up are more real estate closings. The result of building them up are, more deals for them to close. And that's what I truly focus on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like thinking about the overused cliche expression of, rising tide lifts all ships, but it's true. I mean, you live and breathe that, man. I've seen you do that. This idea of we all rise together. And if our relationships that we build and nurture and support together help us all succeed, then, we all win. So
Right.
talking about all of the things I can't even list off, all the different things that you've done and the ways in which we know each other, talk to me a little bit about the journey. Like, where did this all begin? What were some of the ups and downs that you had to go through to get to where you are now, the Title King?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote a book a couple of years ago, back 2019, I think, called Rescue Your Business, where I talked a lot about my failures. But the Reader's Digest version is I was a firefighter up in New York, and any job I always did, whether it was a firefighter and I became a captain in 6 years, whether I worked in a hotel and I wound up running the fire safety and security division of the hotel. I used to fill mini bars at a hotel. That's how I first got in the door at the hotel. I always did it as if I owned the company. So my uncle called me one day, said, "Hey, I have an opportunity for you to move to Florida, take a leave of absence from the fire department and the hotel, move to Florida, open up a mortgage company, get into the mortgage business. I promise you, you'll make more money in 1 month than you're making in a year." So how do you give that up, right? You have that opportunity. I was young, just got married. I was like, no problem. Left it all, moved to Florida, never looked back, got into the mortgage business. My uncle unfortunately had a breakdown and kind of left me on an island by myself. So I met this gentleman by the name of Mike Bartlett, owned a mortgage company, took me under his wing and literally said, "I got you. I'll teach you everything you need to know." He gave me leads and he taught me the business. And to this day, I see him all the time because he lives across the street from me. And, I really give him the credit of giving me the opportunity to build my business. And after about a year of working for him, he saw my work ethic. He knew how good I was. He said, "Let's open up a real estate company. I'll send you the referrals. You'll find him a house. We'll do the mortgage together." And then the third year down the road, I opened a title company. I was like, "Great! Now I'm going to do the closing. I'm going to find him the house. I'm going to do the mortgage," and it was all great. And then the crash of the market happened, and I literally lost everything. We went from doing 30 deals a month to doing 3 deals a month. I went from having no debt to being $750,000 in debt after signing personal guarantees on leases and renting expensive cars and having, that big house with the 103% mortgage, because you didn't think money was going to stop being printed, but unfortunately it did. So I took a really big crash in the market. Again, I was $750,000 in debt, lost everything, but kept my business going. I was paying my assistant on a SunTrust cash advance on a credit card, and then I would pay it off. And I would pay her again on the credit card because I didn't close, only closed 3 deals. And then when I closed 7 deals that month, 8 deals, I would pay that off. And I just kept doing that circle until eventually I met a gentleman by the name of Bob Berg, and that's a whole nother story, but he's the author of The Go-Giver. And a lot of people read that book. It's a real thin book, real easy read. And I met him and I said, "Listen, do you have a coaching program?" He says, "I do." And it was my last $5,000 on my credit card. I gave him $5,000 to coach me. It was his program to become Go-Giver certified, because he taught a Go-Giver certification program. And it was to speak across the nation on his program. I said, "Well, I'm not looking to make this a business. Like, I just want to learn what you know and then share that with my clients." So that's what I did. I coached under him, and I took that program and basically taught real estate agents and mortgage brokers his endless referrals program. And that's what put me back on the map. I got an opportunity to move into a large real estate company, which to date, I'm still in that office, and they have 1,100 agents. And we're just doing great things now. And we've been in business now 20 years. You were at our 20th anniversary
Yeah, I was.
celebration. And again, it comes down to that one philosophy of just doing for others, and others will then eventually do for you.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's so much in there to unpack, and I love the fact that it started from an area in your life and a time in your life, and then, sort of professionally going in a completely different direction before actually coming full circle to where you are now with all the ups and downs. As I'm listening to that, the question that comes up for me, and I imagine that listeners are also wondering, why not just give up? That sounds tiring, just even listening to you give the cliff notes of that 2-decade journey. Sounds like there were a lot of tough moments in there, a lot of chips stacked against you moments. Why not just say, this is not for me. I'm bowing out. I'm going to go try something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think even worse, I talked about it at our 20th anniversary celebration, that things were so bad, it would have been easier to probably just kill myself. It would have been easier to just move on. I get goosebumps and I start tearing up just thinking about it, because think about it, $750,000 in debt. I was getting divorced. I lost my house. My car was repossessed. I was being evicted from my office because I signed a lease with 4 other people. They all just bailed and gave up, and I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. I had no business training. I had no coaching. I had no mentoring. I had nothing. So it would have been easier to give up and not do what you say, is just move on to something else. I
Hmm.
didn't know what else I was going to do. It would have been easier to just probably give up, like most people do, right? That's why you look at the suicide rate, and people just give up because you hit a rough patch. But I had a daughter, and that was the thing that kept me going. She was born in 2003, and you're talking when the crash of the market happened, 2006, 7, 8 is when it started crashing. So, you know 4 or 5 year old, and I used to bring her to work with me. She'd sit in a car seat next to my desk while I would just hustle and try and build business. So I wasn't giving up, right? I had her. I needed to fight. I was a fighter, and no matter what I did, I always succeeded in. And it was that drive and that fight that got me there. So I wasn't giving up, and I paid my assistant on my credit card, never missed a paycheck, never screwed anyone over for money. When I was having troubles with the bank, I was like, "Can I just give you the keys to the house? Like, I'm not looking to take anything from anyone. It's just I'm struggling, like I'm hurting." And the bank said no. The bank said absolutely not. We wouldn't take it. They wouldn't take the keys. I FedExed it to them. They didn't want it. I said, "I'll just move out. You take it." Nope, nope. 2 years they strung me along. So what I did then is I just saved money and saved money and saved money and saved money, because the market started coming back.
Mm.
And I just kept saving, saving, saving. And eventually they wound up taking the house, and I went and bought another house cash. And the rest is history, man. I'm just like so blessed that I think it's just the relationships I had that I didn't give up. And eventually I was able to survive. And again, bought a house cash. And now fast forward, everything I buy is cash. I live with no debt. And I have a very small mortgage on my house, only because I got it at like 2.25% or whatever it was. And other than that, I just live a fulfilled life. And I learned a lot of hard lessons then about losing money and not saving money, because no one ever thought the printing press was going to stop. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way, but survived it, wrote a book about teach others not to do it, and now have a thriving business and continue moving forward.
I appreciate you sharing that piece too about how heavy, how tough it got. I think your willingness and your ability to be vulnerable around that, even in this moment, but also back then to say, look, I'm struggling. I need help. I'm not sure how this is going to look tomorrow. And to be open and honest with that, with yourself about that and others, put you in a place where this wasn't like just blind optimism. This wasn't just sort of like this irrational positivity. It was, no, this is realistically where I am. And the only way for me to dig out of this is just to pick up a shovel and start digging. And I think a lot of what you're talking about, yes, the relationships for sure, and those relationships, I think, continue to create a return on your investment because of how much you give to them. But I think a lot of what you're talking about too, even when you were sharing about your experience in the fire department and your ability to advance and to move into leadership roles, it was this self-awareness of what you were capable of doing, what your strengths were, what even your shortcomings and weaknesses were, and then to see that the external factors were starting to play into your success or lack of success in that moment. You didn't just throw your hands up and say like, well, I guess that's the end of it for me. You just sort of took stock of what you were capable of doing and you just went out and did it until things started to click and things started to change. And I just think that's an incredibly inspiring and powerful story.
Thank you. I mean, I think you see in everything I do that I don't give up. Like in our BNI networking group, I don't give up. I take it back over and figure out how to help it thrive. And anything I do, that's what I am
Yeah.
known for. And I just wasn't giving up. And like I said, it would have been easier to, but I wasn't doing it. And great opportunities open from that struggle.
Yeah.
And to this day, I have some of those relationships, and I keep a piece of artwork behind me that has the 5 key people in my life that were part of my board of directors that I created, and we're still all close today and doing great things.
Kevin, where do you think that level of commitment and discipline comes from?
That's a whole nother conversation. That's another conversation probably for a private day, but I think a lot of it stems from family members. I've
Mm,
seen family members make a lot of money and lose a lot of money. My father
yeah.
was a stockbroker and was a commodity trader, and he lost his shirt. And my parents are fine, and they gave us a great life, and they live in a house with without a mortgage, and they have investments, and their retirement looks okay. But I wasn't giving up, and he kind of gave up in that industry. And again, I didn't know anything back then, and I wasn't in his shoes, so things could have been totally different. But I think that stems where I look at it from is like he kind of gave up, and he probably had his own reasons for doing so back then. But I was just not giving up. Like I wasn't going to lose what I've built. And then when I worked for the hotel, I'll never forget that they contracted me to figure out why the 2 night managers were both sleeping on the job. And they wanted me to figure out how to catch them. So we had video recording and all this stuff to catch them in the act, thinking that I was going to become then the manager, right? They were thinking, oh, I'm next in line. Like, I'm going to help you catch these people doing what they shouldn't be doing. And then after we caught them, they were like, no, nah, we can't give it to you. We have to give it to somebody else. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm the best employee you have here, and I'm the one that works the hardest, and these guys are sleeping, and you're not going to give me this promotion? And that's when I knew it was time to leave and go work for myself. And again, I never looked back. I've had opportunities to sell my business, and I'd have to go work for then the people that buy it. And I'm like, I'm just going to just continue doing my thing, what I know well, and push forward.
Yeah. I I appreciate you sharing that too, because without even going into the details, our experiences, our history, what's modeled to us around us in close relationships definitely impacts the way that we create that understanding of ourselves and the way that we end up handling ourselves. But again, it's not this blind optimism, but it's almost this distinction between the, well, what if I fail mentality? And then the other one that we sometimes hear is like, well, what if I fly?
Well, I think
And
failing to me was giving up everything.
yeah,
and
yeah,
and that wasn't, there's one thing about failing and saying, oh, I'm just going to go work at Publix, or I'm going to go just get another job and I'll go sell this, product. I wasn't a salesperson. I'm a leader. I'm a business owner. I'm a doer. I'm a lion, right? Like I continue to charge forward and hunt for my food. So just giving up just wasn't an option. It was either give up and literally give up,
yeah,
or like I'm extreme. So I'm
yeah,
extreme one way or the other. So I just chose extreme one way, and it could have went the opposite. So
yeah.
we
Well, you
we
hear
just
a lot of leaders talk about that, like, well, I'm going to succeed or I'm going to die trying. And I think most people who say that are just being extreme, but I also think that there are people who recognize that in order for me to accomplish what I know is capable, or what I'm capable of, or what's possible, I have to play all out. And I have to see this through all the way to the end. Otherwise, I'm always going to know I left a little bit on the table, or I left a little bit in the tank. So, where else in your life do you feel like you get to play all out in that way and you get to give all of yourself? I mean, clearly in your business you've been building for the last 20 years, but where else?
Yeah, I mean, I do it a lot in even the social organizations I'm part of, like, the program that we are both part of, the 31 day program. I do it in that. You can see, like, I go all in, and I built that entire operation. Like, I believe you had Joel on here.
Hmm.
I helped him build that entire program because I just give myself. It's like it's all or nothing. I'm just going to give it my all. I have no financial gain in it. I'm not a partner in it. I just do it because I do it for the betterment of others. But again, it goes even to my personal life. Like I coach my son in t-ball. And same thing. I told him if I'm signing up to coach, I'm coaching. Like if I sign up, I need to learn everything I need to know. I need to know how to organize everything, keep these kids going. Obviously, teach them the skill of baseball, which I don't know, but I figured out how to do it. I just said, give me coaches that know how to do it. So they gave me, I have a former MLB player that is one of my assistant coaches. I have another guy that played minor leagues. So like I recruited the best coaches to teach the things that I didn't know. And I just simply put in the stuff that I know, which is leadership, which is motivation, which is teamwork, those types of things. And we have the number one team in the league. I'm the number one most requested coach in the league just because of how I run my operation, whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah, well, it's how you show up, and what a great lesson in delegation too, right? I mean, not having to be the smartest person in the room, get people around you who are experts at what they do, and let them come in and do their thing. How
Yeah,
would
how does someone who knows nothing about baseball become the number one coach in the league?
yeah, exactly.
Just recruited the right people, right?
Yeah. And I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago who we were talking about that exact same thing. He says, "No, I don't ever hire anybody who I don't feel can offer me something that I don't know. I want them to bring in a level of talent that I don't possess myself."
Yeah.
Um, when you talk about the people that you've managed over these many years and you've led as part of the work you do with Independence Title and beyond, what do you think people think about your leadership style? How would they describe the way that you lead?
It's interesting you asked that because I just had a conversation with one or two of my employees the other day saying I still talk to almost every employee or manager that I've ever had work for me, except for maybe one or two. And it's usually one or two that have done something that have left in a way that wasn't in line with my values. Not that they've done, no one ever stole from me or anything like that, but usually the way they exit. But other than that, every employee that has ever left, that's the one thing they will always say is I run a family business. I have always taken good care of them, whether they've had personal problems, professional problems, emotional problems. I am there for the staff. But one of the good things that I've done, obviously years ago I did, but now is I don't manage them in the day to day. I have my managers that manage them, and I simply get involved when I need to. When things are, usually I say if it gets to me, there's a problem. If I'm sitting and having to let someone go, there's a problem, right? There's something major. And very rare have I had to let people go. And those that I have, or those that have decided to leave, like I said, I still talk to most of them today on great terms. Like we talk all the time, we message all the time. So that's kind of my number one thing is do what you do best. And it's not managing. Managing is not what I'm a doer, I'm a creator. I'm
Mm,
not a manager. So hire
yeah,
the right people to manage.
yeah. I like the fact you made the distinction too between managing and leading, and that you recognize that enough to know that in the day to day, these aren't just philosophical concepts. These are actually duties and responsibilities. Are you managing people, projects, tasks, or are you leading? And you are very much a leader, and recognizing that your value is not to sit there and manage and overly supervise people or projects. I think a lot of that comes down to trust.
Right.
And you've got to be hiring people. You must clearly, and I've met a lot of your staff in the past, but you're clearly hiring people who you see as talented, and also people you feel that you can trust to then be able to delegate in that way.
Yeah, it's worked for me, right? It's what works. So I tell people I'll build the business and I'll do those types of things that I know I do very well. And the rest we save for the ones that know how to do it well. We hire them.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I could have a whole conversation with you about tips and helpful hints on how to lead more effectively and manage less, but maybe we'll say that for another time. I do have a question though about when you think about people who are listening in, what's one area of particular importance that you think people should focus in on to enhance their leadership skills?
For me, and I think I wrote about it in the Operation Leadership book, is surrounding yourself with the right people. What we've realized, and part of why I helped create that brotherhood, is that we are on an island by ourselves as entrepreneurs. And we break that up into really three categories. I spoke about this at an event the other day where we say we have intrapreneurs, soulpreneurs, and entrepreneurs. And a true entrepreneur is you own a business that has employees and you have payroll and you face the struggles of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs don't face that. Entrepreneurs are more like, I'm going to treat the business as if it's my own. Great. You have a whole set of other challenges and goals and visions. But that's kind of like a manager looking to be an executive. When we have soulpreneurs, these are the ones that are on an island by themselves. They're just working on their own business, maybe out of their house or an executive suite. They have a different set of problems. So my problems relate to entrepreneurs, and a lot of it is, we are sitting on an island by ourselves. We don't know who to talk to. We don't know who to strategize with. I had a call with a client of mine the other day. One of my vendors called me, and he was just started talking about these types of problems. And he's like, "Oh, I was telling so and so." I'm like, "You can't tell them that. You need to bring in your own board of directors, the own people that you can connect with, that you can confide in and tell them the problems you're having and the strategies and the challenges and the wins and the loses." So that's kind of why I created that whole brotherhood thing, because even on a personal level, whether it's, I'm addicted to drugs, I'm addicted to porn, I'm addicted to alcohol, and I know it's how it's showing up in my life, to my business is failing, I can't make payroll, I don't know if I should give up or not, if I should sell this. Those are the types of challenges that we have nobody else to talk to. You can't talk to your employees about that. I've been blessed. I can talk to my wife about it because she's in the business coaching field. So she understands business and entrepreneurship, which is great. But most people don't have that. Most people's, their wives maybe, or husbands that are watching this are in a different industry. They're in a different field. They may not work together, or maybe they just work as an employee and they can't relate to those problems. So it's hard. Like I can go home and talk about entrepreneur problems and business challenges because my wife's more successful than me. Not everyone has that, but having that resource, and she's one of the 5 on my board of directors on the painting that I have, having those people that you can confide in and you can talk to and you can call at a moment's notice and they'll drop everything and be there for you, I think is the key to becoming an effective leader. You can read all the books you want, listen to all the podcasts you want, but if you don't have an emotional, spiritual, business place to share everything that's going on in your life and not get judged, but actually get helped and coached and guided, your business will fail. You'll never be a good leader. Every good leader has a group of people that they are able to share ideas with.
Yeah, I believe that too. And I love the way that that just came kind of full circle back to, and you can't have that group around you if you aren't developing and maintaining and nurturing your relationships. I
Yeah, I
think,
mean, most people think, oh, I'm just going to watch this podcast. I'm going to read this book. It's great. I don't really read any books. I watch these little TED Talks and just try and implement one or two little things every now and then that will help me grow and exceed. I'm not looking to be a multi-gazillionaire.
yeah,
I'm looking to live a comfortable life, provide a good life for my family, have a good retirement, leave hopefully something for my children, and do good, right? Where people, we always, I do tasks all the time where we say, like, what will people say about you at your funeral?
yeah,
Like, will people show up and stand there and talk good about you? Will there be not that much they're going to say about you? Oh, he was a great father. Or will they really share that you've impacted the world and you've changed people's lives? I mean, I know clients of mine that I've helped become multimillionaires just because of the things that I've done for them. So it's that leadership skill in those relationships, and that playing all in is one of the keys. When you start hiding and not sharing and not, that's tough. I've sat with clients where I've opened up my tax return. Here, look, like, I'm not telling you a story. Like, here's my tax return. It'll show you my income, where I went from zero, went all the way up, went all the way down to show a loss. Like, I literally was losing money and fought through it. So I'm an open book. I love to share. And those watching, don't just think you can listen. You got to, like, listen to this podcast and then take action on the things we talk about.
yeah,
You can't just listen. It's not going to work.
yeah.
Action is what creates the success.
It's absolutely right. I love the way you embody what relationships are to you and do for you and what you do for those relationships. And the leaders that I work with myself, I hear them constantly telling me when we first start talking and we start working together, oh, it's so lonely at the top. And these are leaders in organizations, so they're employees or they're entrepreneurs or they're solopreneurs, and they're sort of complaining, at least initially, how lonely it is at the top. And to your point, well, it doesn't have to be. And if you are noticing that it's lonely at the top, then leadership growth, development, self-awareness, all of that is not going to be pressed and modified and increased along your journey if you don't have people around you who are helping to support you and get you to that place. So I think that's a great point. And one of the things I know you do, you're always available to help and support people. I want to give you a chance to tell some of the listeners how they can get in touch with you, how they can learn more about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, so the best way, you can go to my name, kevintacher.com. That'll take you to a V card, which has all of my links for everything, whether it's social media, my books, my company, how to book time with me, to chat with me. Look me up on social media. Again, I'm very transparent and I'm very out there on social media, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you can find me. So if you just put my name in Google, you'll find me. But again, if you go to my name, kevintacher.com, that'll pull up a V card and you can just add me to your contacts, shoot me a WhatsApp message or a text. Just say you heard me on the podcast, and I'm happy to have any conversations I can with people. And if you'd like to buy one of my books, I would highly recommend the Rescue Your Business book. Is a great one, especially now that we're getting back into some type of market correction. And Operation Leadership, again, was, your whole vision is talking about leadership. That was a book I wrote about a U.S. Marine and the things that he does in his daily training, because I train with him every day. So in that training and how it relates into business. So the same skill sets that they implement in their training in their life, how do I relate that into business, and how does it connect the dots to be more successful today than you were yesterday? So one last thing, though, I did want to say is, because you were just talking about it, I think the one thing that stops a lot of the people that are listening is fear, the fear of sharing, the fear of engaging with others. The problem is you're constantly talking to those below you, and you can't share those struggles with people below you. You need to find the people above you to share those struggles, and not the people equal to you, because you're not going to get the ideas. You want to find people that are more successful than you, that are willing to share. Most successful people are willing to share. So don't live in fear. Go out and connect with those people today, and you'll see the great value with that.
That's a great point. Yeah, I would encourage anybody listening, lean into that. If you feel that discomfort, if you feel that fear, lean into that, explore what that is, Share that with somebody who you know you aspire to be like, or be working with, or be connected to, because a relationship will develop out of there. You'll start to gain some greater awareness over what that fear is and how it's holding you back. And there's so much growth there. So Kevin, I appreciate you for not holding back. I appreciate you for showing up the way you do, not only on the podcast today, but in all aspects of your life, personally and professionally, and our friendship out there in the world. Thanks for all that you do, and thanks for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Look forward to hearing it.
As always, I'd love to hear from you about the episode. What came up for you as you think about leveling up your own leadership game? And please, if you enjoyed the episode, I encourage you to like and subscribe. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning in. Keep being great, and we'll see you next time.